Hello. I'm up late at night just watching Sports Center, actually. And I'm watching all this footage. I'm looking at my news feed. Everything is about Tyree Nichols, right? So when he was killed, it wasn't a big news story. But now that the city of Memphis has released the police video, now it's a big news story. But not only that, but it appears to me like there the media is ramping up this story and trying its its hardest to get black people stirred up into a frenzy so that every black person now feels that they are in danger of the same fate as Tyree Nichols. Therefore, we all have heavy hearts, right? That's why LeBron James is tweeting stuff out and Chris Paul is tweeting stuff out about this, and the city of Memphis and the Timberwolves play tonight, and they have to have a moment of silence. So we need to be aware of this. We need to be aware of this when it seems like the media is trying to purposely stoke some sort of racial division and some sort of protest. It seems to me like what's been happening all the last week has been leading up to this. I watched the CNN segment with Don Lemon talking with the police chief. The police chief was just pumping this video up like, oh my goodness, I've never seen anything so bad in all my years of law enforcement. She said, this black woman said, of the five black officers who were the ones who perpetrated this crime on Tyree Nichols. And believe me, yes, it is a crime. And yes, it is wrong. And yet I wonder why it is that, first of all, we seem not to share the same level of care when it's someone of another race that is mistreated, brutalized. We're not up in arms protesting in the streets, right? In California, when Asian people who are studying, who are celebrating the new year are massacred in dance studios. That happened. They're in dance studios and they're dead. And we have no idea why a 72-year-old person who's also Asian would do that to them. And yet we're not up in arms protesting, but for some reason, and maybe the reason is the erosion of the social order, right? You want to say, because you can't use the normal narrative, which is that it's racism when you have five black officers doing it. Since you can't use the normal narrative, obviously we need to use the other narrative, which is that all policing is bad. Therefore, maybe we don't need to have any police. Maybe we just need to allow chaos to run rampant rather than take care of the problem, which the city of Memphis already did. And so then why the protest? What's the reason for the protest? In the end, what's the protocol that they're supposed to follow when we see something that's done that's as brutal and illegal as this, right? The police officers were all fired. They're all listed as former police officers. The police officers were held up disciplinarily internally and fired, and now they're facing criminal charges of murder for this case. And so, what more? Like, what do we want out of this protest? I thought what we wanted out of the protest, right, for BLM was we wanted more representation. We wanted Black people to sit on the boards of these businesses. We wanted them to be part of the power structure. And now that we have Black people who are part of the power structure and part of the police, we still have a situation like this, and therefore, I guess the natural response of people is that, oh well, we should just get rid of policing, which is what BLM wanted in the first place. But unfortunately, when you get rid of policing, then it doesn't serve to protect the interest of those who might be victims of crime. When you get rid of policing, it doesn't serve to keep people from being brutalized by the police. What happens is that criminals run rampant and they brutalize disproportionately more people of color, more poor people, and you have anarchy in the streets, especially in our big cities or in places where there's more minorities living, and in other places where there's a social order and also people have guns in their homes, you have less prevalence of crime. And that's just the way that it works. So I'm going to keep monitoring this Tyre Nichols situation to figure out what it is exactly that they're trying to distract us from, what it is that they're trying to whip up this national frenzy, just like they did during BLM. I mean, we know what BLM was all about. It was all about being able to change the voting laws so that they could kind of install whoever they wanted to as president. You know that's what it was about, right? And you also know that most of the money that was apparently pledged to these justice organizations actually just helped out the LGBTQ movement that keeps adding letters, except for the one letter that they truly want to add, which is silent. The P for pedos is silent. All the money ended up going to that. And so now you see this, you wonder why everyone's so up in arms. You wonder why they're trying again to push the buttons of Black people. And you wonder why I continue to talk about the subject of racial idolatry, because if you idolize, if your if your goal in life is to figure out how I can be authentically Black, how I can be more of this identity, then you are susceptible to any person manipulating you and saying, well, you want to be Black? Here's what you need to do. You need to feel this certain way about what happened to this person. And so you need to take that anger because it affects one, it affects all of us, right? Because we're a group. You got to stay within the group. And now you need to go out in the streets and you need to protest and you need to cry and you need to carry on and you need to be completely illogical about a situation in which everything that can be done is being done. Because no matter what you do, You cannot. You'll create more harm by eliminating police, and you cannot prevent these sinful hearts of men, the frenzy that men get into. And I won't even I won't even get into another narrative, which is that this is a it's an amplification, I think, and an example of the devaluation of life, specifically when it comes to Black people against other Black people, which is promoted in our hip hop culture. And so, like, what you were seeing, it can't even rightly be called law enforcement. What you're seeing looked like what you see on any block that's gang infested. So these guys all together that are part of the same crew kind of get in a frenzy and beat somebody and beat them to death. That happens all the time in gangs, and so it seemed like more thuggery, the same thuggery that's celebrated in the Grammys, the same thuggery that rappers sing about, and here we're seeing this. So I just want to close by again, don't let yourself get distracted. Why is it that they're showing you these things? Why is it that certain stories are amplified and certain other stories are suppressed? What are they trying to distract you from? What's being done behind the scenes? Why did they spend so much time trying to ramp this story up and this video, and why did they release this video on a Friday night, knowing practically this is just practical. Maybe my conspiracy mindset is tingling. Why did they release this video on a Friday night, knowing that people don't have to work the next day? Knowing that Sunday you got the playoffs, so the playoffs are gonna quiet things down, unless during the playoff games they observe some sort of moment of silence, or perhaps it was there's a connection between the same outpouring of care and prayers for Damar Hamlin, right, which also got us emotionally swayed. Maybe that was like the precursor, the primer, right? The foreplay before they released this video. So they've got you all in an emotional state anyway over a black man, and then now here's another black man that just got killed by the police. Okay, now it's time for the hate to start. Now it's time to get violent. So maybe all these things are simply they want to wind people up, and then they want to let them go, and they want to create the greatest amount of suffering. And I know the video is getting long, but another interesting parallel, an interesting thing that I saw in this case is it possible that CNN and NBC, like mainstream media, is working in concert with Antifa? Because how is it that right as CNN and NBC are saying, "Oh, this video is going to come out and it's going to be horrible," and man, this was an injustice. This is horrible, right? And then the video comes out, and yes, it's bad. Yes, it's bad. I wouldn't. I would not personally, having lived through, and seen Rodney King. I you know what? There's really no proper comparison, because brutality is brutality and it's horrible. It's horrible. There's nothing at all that you can really say about it. But it's just interesting that they ramped this story up, and Antifa was already at the ready, waiting for the video to release so that they could get enough black people out in the streets so that they could commit the violence while using these black people as their human shields. Does that sound familiar? That's exactly what the summer of 2020 was. And here it is, they're trying to do it again. And are we any smarter? Like, do we ever learn from the lessons of history, or are we just doomed to keep repeating the same maladaptive patterns and keep getting tricked in the exact same way? And so why do we allow them to dictate how we should feel about something? I said the same thing on January 6th. Why are you feeling like this is the worst day in all of American history? Because you were told to feel like it's the worst day in all American history. George Floyd, why do you feel that like that's the worst thing, and that's a racial incident? Because you were told that it's a racial incident, although there is no evidence of it. This issue in Memphis, why are you feeling like it's something having to do with you as a black person and it's a racial incident? Why weren't you told that it was 5 black officers in an all black city that's had black police chiefs the last at least 3 times? Because when you're when you're manipulated by emotion, then all logic goes out the window. You don't think anymore. You just react. You just react. You just react. I'm taking it to the streets. I'm taking it to the streets. There's no need to take it to the streets. This is under control, and God has it under control. What you need to be concerned about is why this story is being elevated when we've had all of these mass shootings prior to this. And that seems to just become a fact of life when we have people being killed all the time, beaten to death even all the time by gangs, and no one cares, right? So as a black man, I've I've come to the conclusion long ago that my life only matters if I'm killed by the police or someone in authority, and bonus, I'll get a golden casket if that person happens to be white. Because otherwise, the news is more than happy to gloss over black bodies dropping in the streets of our cities every single day, and bodies of every person dropping day after day in this crime wave that is continuing to be exacerbated by this catch and release program in our cities, where people commit crime, they get arrested, and they're out the next day. Because, hey, bail is racist. Keeping people in jail is racist. So your life doesn't matter. My life doesn't matter unless it is ended supporting this narrative. At least as far as the world is concerned, I always want to end my videos with something positive, that God cares, though. God cares, and he sees every single thing. He sees with eyes of justice. He sees the evil of these officers that they had in their hearts when they were frenzied, gathering around this person, beating him to death. It even looked like he was getting choked or at least dragged at certain points in the video. So God's on his throne. He's going to have his vengeance in this case, but God's also going to have vengeance on the people who would try to profiteer off of it, and the people who would seek some sort of political advantage off of the suffering of so many. He's going to profit off of the people who would take it to the streets, really trying to utilize this as a cover for their covetousness, because they're going to go out and steal a new TV now because they're mad, and as a black person, I'm owed reparations for this insult against my race. And he's going to have vengeance on CNN and MSNBC and all of these media outlets who were trying to ramp up this story and make everyone feel, every black person feel, like this happened to their cousin or something. I think that's enough for now. Have a great evening. My name's Ollie Schwaga. This has been 10 Points to Ponder.